Covert narcissists do not destroy you with noise, do they? They ruin you with silence, with absence, and the kind of emptiness you feel even when they're standing right in front of you. They blend in, they act sweet and helpful, they play the harmless role so well that nobody ever questions them. But live with them long enough, and you will start to feel it, that slow, cold ache in your chest every time they show up for everyone but you. What I call the too friendly syndrome is one of the covert narcissist's sharpest weapons. It is never really about being a kind friend, it's about being seen as one. They want to be known as the nicest, most selfless person in the room, but it is all for show. The rides they offer, the money they lend, the way they help someone move houses, they're not doing it because they care. They don't. They are doing it because it makes them look good. The people who actually need their help and presence, you, your children, basically their family, get nothing. They perform kindness for the world and serve emptiness at home. They will drive a coworker to the airport at 4 a.m. without hesitation, but they won't even remember your birthday unless someone else reminds them. They will wire money to someone they meet once in a Facebook group, but act like buying you medicine when you are sick is an inconvenience. They will spend hours crafting the perfect message of encouragement for a stranger's breakup while ignoring the fact that you have been in tears all day. They will run errands for people who do not even ask, offer unsolicited help to acquaintances just to seem thoughtful, and forget to ask if you ate. They will remember everyone's pain but yours. That's what I'm saying. They will be present for people they barely know and completely absent for the people sleeping under the same roof. That's the irony. They will post about empathy, write long captions about humanity, and smile in group photos with people they just met while their child cries in the next room and their partner wonders why love has started to feel like rejection in slow motion. It is a pattern though, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. You start realizing they're not as generous as they pretend to be or they care. They are generous because it buys them something. They want to be seen as the bigger person, as I said, the enlightened one, the hero and the kind soul, but they aren't. And here is how it hurts you the most. Because they can be kind. You have seen it, haven't you? You have watched them show up for others. You have witnessed them laugh, comfort, give and hold space for people. So you know they are capable. They know what to do. But they choose not to intentionally, not to give any of that to you. That is the heartbreak. That's the betrayal. At home, they're emotionally bankrupt. They do not listen. They do not comfort. They do not reciprocate. They are not there when you cry. They are not there when you try to open up. And certainly not there when you finally break. They shrug at your pain, roll their eyes at your vulnerability, and act like your emotions are either annoying or totally manipulative. They give more compassion to a neighbor's dog than they give to your heart. And when you finally build the courage to ask for what any decent partner or parent would offer without being told, they look at you with that cold face and say, I do so much for others. Why is it never enough for you? They don't say it because it's true. No, they say it because it shuts you down. That's what they want. Because it paints you as the problem and paints them as the giver, as the victim. That's how they win. They flip the script and suddenly you are the perpetrator for needing love from the person who promised to give it. You end up questioning your own sanity. Am I broken for wanting something as basic as affection or presence or emotional safety? But no, you're not broken. You are starving, and they are feeding the world while locking the fridge at home. That's too friendly syndrome. A covert narcissist need to be seen as kind without ever doing the real work of love. Because real love is messy. It requires showing up when no one is clapping and demands presence over performance, which is something they avoid at all costs. They curate a public image so carefully that the moment you speak up, you look ungrateful. Oh, she is always helping people. How can you say she is abusive? He is such a nice guy. He volunteers, donates, supports and is there for everyone. Exactly, that is the trap. They make sure the world is on their side. And I mean every single person who could possibly matter. I'm talking about relatives, co-workers, neighbors, community members, online strangers, everybody. They build a narrative so tight, so strong, so flattering, so manipulative that when you finally collapse, when your body gives up from carrying the weight of silence, when you cry for help and tell your story, no one believes you. They have already made sure of it. You are dismissed before you even open your mouth, because how could someone so generous, helpful, so damn charming possibly be abusive? That is what is called reputation warfare. It is not just image control, it is psychological warfare against your reality. This is how slow erasure of identity happens. Behind closed doors, the family of a covert narcissist walks on eggshells. The neglect isn't loud, it's slow, steady, and it builds layer by layer until the house feels like a museum where no one is allowed to touch or feel. A child grows up knowing all the right answers in school but never learns what it feels like to be emotionally held. They eat their dinner quietly, smile politely, and keep their pain to themselves because they have already learned that their silence, their sadness will be ignored. They become little adults reading the room before they even speak, trying to avoid being a burden because they fear being erased. There is no screaming or, let's say, broken plates, just silence that cuts deeper than any insult, and absence that feels more brutal than rage, because somewhere deep down they already believe they are one. And the partner lies in bed beside someone who texts strangers encouragement, reposts inspirational quotes, and checks in on people they barely know. But they haven't been really looked at in weeks. There is no hand reaching across the sheets, no voice asking, "How was your day?" Just cold bodies, colder silences, and the slow dying of intimacy. What is the worst part? You start convincing yourself that this is your normal because it was your fault, that this is what love becomes over time. But it's not love, it is abandonment in plain sight. And then comes the extreme form of gaslighting, the weaponized kindness and the rehearsed victimhood. If you finally say, "I can't do this anymore, I'm done," they look shocked. "After all I have done for you," is what you will get to hear. That is the final layer. They will dig up every nice thing they have ever done for anyone and wave it in your face as proof that they are a good person and you are the problem. But here is what I need you to know and remember. Kindness isn't real if it skips the people who need it most. Take a note of that. A parent who helps everyone except their own child is not noble, they are neglectful. It does not matter how many community drives they organize or how many children they sponsor overseas, if their own child is going to bed every night wondering why they feel unloved. That's not compassion, that is abandonment dressed up in charity. A partner who shines in every social setting, who makes everyone laugh, who plays the role of the perfect friend or co-worker, but who leaves you crying on the bathroom floor unanswered, unseen, and totally untouched, is not a good partner. They are a mirage, an illusion, a ghost with a good reputation, and a human being who needs a spotlight in order to give love, who only shows kindness when there is an audience clapping for them, who can only be generous when it earns them a badge of honor. They do not understand love because love isn't performance, it is presence. It is what you do when no one is watching because it's not performative. If you're listening to this and feeling confused, empty, or angry, that is your truth rising up. You have been starving while the world claps for your abuser. That is the psychological violence of living with someone who suffers from too friendly syndrome. You were never asking for too much. You were asking the right person for something they had no intention of giving. Because to them, love isn't love. It is leverage. And this is how you must heal. You're not invisible or unworthy. You're not too much. That's what I want you to understand. You are finally waking up to the performance, illusion, and their act. And once you see it, the curtain falls. You don't have to play along anymore. You don't have to keep explaining yourself or prove your pain. It is who you choose when there is nothing in it for you but connection. Real love isn't transactional. It is quiet, consistent, and accountable. And they do not know how to do any of that. You get to leave the stage. That's it. You get to rebuild where love isn't a performance but a practice, where kindness isn't used for clout but shared with consistency, where emotional presence does not have to be earned, it is given freely because you matter. And that is the world you deserve, not one built on someone else's applause, but one that honors your truth always. So that was it for today's episode. I hope you found it insightful. Let me know in the comments. I will talk to you in the next one. Until then, as always, let the healing begin and continue.